For privacy reasons, the names of individuals involved in this case have been changed. Stay tuned. As fireworks light up the sky, a bloody nightmare engulfs a peaceful home. Maria Thompson, a devoted wife and loving mother, is brutally murdered in her bedroom. Her husband, Dr. Samuel Johnson, claims he was beaten unconscious, and when he awoke, he found his wife's body in a pool of blood. But something is wrong. There were no signs of forced entry, no strange fingerprints. Only one person was there that night, and that person was Samuel. The press is involved. The public is outraged. The police believe they have found the killer. But is the truth really that simple? New evidence emerges. Conflicting accounts emerge, and a legal battle that continues for years raises the question: was Samuel Johnson a cold-blooded killer or a victim of injustice? Truth is out there, but will it be exposed before it's too late? Where every unsolved mystery contains secrets that want to be revealed. Step into the darkness and explore them with us. Don't hesitate to leave a like as an encouragement for us. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell to update the most classic cases. The Maria Thompson murder case in 1954 is one of the most controversial murder cases in American judicial history. The story revolves around the mysterious death of a young woman in her own home and the decades-long investigation and trial of her husband, Dr. Samuel Johnson. It is not just a murder case, but also a testament to media manipulation, errors in investigation, and how the judicial system can be influenced by public opinion. In the early morning hours of July 4, 1954, Dr. Samuel Johnson's mansion in Bay Village, an affluent suburb near Cleveland, Ohio, became the scene of a horrific crime. At approximately 5:40 a.m., an emergency call was placed from Dr. Johnson's home. The caller was a close family friend, Mayor Spencer Hook. When Mr. Hawk and his wife rushed to the scene, they found 31-year-old Maria Thompson lying motionless on her bed, covered in blood. The police were called shortly thereafter and found a horrifying scene. Maria had been beaten beyond recognition. Her body was lying motionless on the bed, with bedding strewn about, and her nightgown was pulled down, indicating a struggle. The medical examiner determined that Maria had been brutally attacked with a hard object, possibly a metal bar or some other heavy, sharp instrument. Based on the condition of the body, experts estimated that she had been murdered between 3 and 4 a.m. Samuel Johnson, then 30, was a prominent neurosurgeon at a local hospital. When the police arrived, he appeared dazed and exhausted. He said that the night before, he and Maria had watched a movie together at a friend's house, then returned home and went to bed. Feeling tired, he slept on the couch in the living room downstairs. At around 3 a.m., he heard a scream coming from his wife's bedroom. As he ran up the stairs, he was attacked from behind by a stranger and lost consciousness. When he woke up, he rushed to his wife's side, but it was too late. However, Samuel's testimony was quickly doubted by the police. There was no sign of forced entry into the house, and the windows and doors had no signs of being forced open. Furthermore, Samuel had no serious injuries to prove that he had been beaten unconscious. These suspicious points caused the police to begin focusing their investigation on the husband. From the very beginning of the investigation, police and prosecutors quickly turned their suspicions on Samuel Johnson. His testimony about being attacked by a stranger in his home was not supported by any solid evidence. There were no signs of forced entry into the house, nor were there any signs of forced entry in the windows, making the possibility of an intruder unconvincing. Furthermore, although Samuel claimed that he had been hit in the head until he was unconscious, a medical examination revealed that he had only a small scratch and no signs of serious trauma. These inconsistencies led police to begin to doubt whether Samuel was actually the victim. As they delved deeper into the couple's personal lives, they discovered that Samuel and Maria's marriage was not as happy as it appeared. According to friends and relatives, the couple had been having many conflicts in recent years. Maria often confided to friends that her husband had become distant, cold, and no longer spent as much time with his family as before. She suspected that Samuel was having an affair but had no concrete evidence. Detectives continued to investigate and found clues that Samuel was indeed having an intimate relationship with Susan Baker, a female X-ray technician who worked with him at the local hospital. When questioned, Susan admitted that she and Samuel had been in a long-term relationship and that the two had met privately many times outside of work. Several co-workers also testified that they had seen Samuel and Susan engaging in inappropriate public displays of affection. Information about the relationship quickly reached the prosecutors. They argued that Samuel may have grown tired of his marriage to Maria and wanted to end it so that he could be with his mistress without any strings attached. However, divorce was not an easy option at that time, especially for a prestigious doctor like Samuel. A noisy divorce could damage his reputation and career. Therefore, the prosecutor hypothesized that Samuel may have decided to get rid of Maria permanently so that he could be free to be with Susan without any hindrance. With the increasing circumstantial evidence, the police decided to arrest Samuel Johnson on charges of murder. Within weeks of the incident, he was brought before the public as the prime suspect, while the press and public opinion continued to speculate about the real motive behind the crime. In late 1954, the trial of Samuel Johnson officially began and quickly became one of the most high-profile cases in American judicial history. From the start, the press was awash with articles about the case, with major newspapers portraying Samuel as a cheating husband, a cold-blooded murderer who had planned to kill his wife to run away with his mistress. Public interest filled the courtroom, while outside, crowds gathered to watch the proceedings. Some believed he was innocent, but most were influenced by the media and believed Samuel was the killer. The prosecution argued that Samuel had been motivated to kill his wife because he wanted to end the marriage and move in with his mistress without the consequences of a scandalous divorce. They emphasized circumstantial evidence, including the testimony of Maria's friends, who had heard her complain about her husband's affair. Witnesses also described Maria's anxiety and insecurity about her marriage. Prosecutors pointed out that Samuel had no solid alibi for the night of the murder, and that he was the only person in the house at the time. They also stressed that there were no signs of forced entry, undermining Samuel's claim that he was attacked by a stranger. Samuel's defense attorneys strongly disputed these claims. They argued that there was no direct evidence that Samuel was the killer. Police found no blood on his clothes or body, despite the bloody scene. They also pointed out that police were too quick to focus on Samuel, without thoroughly investigating other suspects. Several witnesses reported seeing a suspicious man around the Johnson house that night, but the police did not pursue the lead seriously. Furthermore, Samuel's attorney emphasized that immediately after discovering his wife's body, he panicked and ran to a neighbor's house to seek help, which was not the behavior of someone who had just murdered his wife. Although the defense attorney presented many reasonable counter-arguments, the pressure from public opinion and the media made it impossible for the jury to be completely objective. Sensational headlines and articles condemning Samuel filled the daily newspapers, creating a tense atmosphere throughout the trial. Finally, in December 1954, the jury returned a verdict. Samuel Johnson was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison. He was immediately escorted from the courthouse. While outside, the crowd was divided, some cheering with joy, believing that justice had been served, while others believed that he had been wrongly convicted. Despite his life sentence, Samuel Johnson's case continued to be controversial for years to come. His family, along with his defense attorneys, believed that the original trial was unfair and heavily influenced by the media. They argued that the biased press created a wave of negative publicity that pressured the jury into convicting without fully considering the evidence. Throughout Samuel's years in prison, his family and legal allies sought an opportunity to re-examine the case. In 1964, after a decade in prison, Samuel finally received a chance to be tried again, with the help of renowned attorney F. Lee Bailey. Bailey, one of the most prominent defense attorneys in the country at the time, closely examined the case and found many irregularities in the initial investigation. He argued that the 1954 trial was not fair and that important evidence had been overlooked or misinterpreted. At the retrial in 1966, flaws in the police and prosecutor's case were gradually exposed. One of the key points was the forensic evidence at the scene. Blood spatter experts demonstrated that the way blood had splattered in Maria Thompson's bedroom suggested that the killer was most likely left-handed. Samuel Johnson, on the other hand, was right-handed, raising questions about his ability to actually be the killer. In addition, Attorney Bailey exposed shortcomings in the police investigation. He pointed out that the authorities had not carefully considered other potential suspects, including those with a history of violence in the area. In particular, there was a witness who reported seeing an unidentified man wandering near Johnson's house on the night of the murder, but the police did not seriously pursue this lead. During the trial, Attorney Bailey emphasized that the previous verdict was based more on emotion and public pressure than on factual evidence. Ultimately, after much heated debate, the court concluded that the 1954 trial had been unfair and Samuel Johnson's conviction was overturned. On June 16, 1966, after 12 years in prison, Samuel Johnson was acquitted and released. This case not only became a milestone in American legal history, but also a lesson in the dangers of trials influenced by the media and public opinion. Although Samuel Johnson was acquitted and released after 12 years in prison, the murder of Maria Thompson remains an unsolved mystery. The most important question remains, who really killed Maria that fateful night? After Samuel was exonerated, investigators and forensic experts continued to review the remaining evidence, but all leads fell short. Several theories were put forward, including the possibility that the case involved a botched break-in. Proponents of this theory suggested that the killer could have been a vagrant or petty thief who was caught breaking into the house and panicked and killed Maria. However, there was no clear evidence of forced entry or the loss of valuables. Another theory focused on the possibility that Maria was the victim of a personally motivated attacker. Several witnesses reported seeing a strange man near the Johnson house on the night of the murder. However, the police did not investigate this lead at the time, and the man's identity remains a mystery. In addition, some skeptics still question Samuel Johnson's role, despite his acquittal. They argue that despite the flaws in the investigation, that does not mean he is completely unrelated. These doubts stem largely from the fact that he was the only person present at the scene at the time of the murder. If he was not him, how could the killer have entered the house, brutally murdered Maria, and then disappeared without leaving any obvious traces? This case is not only a story about crime, but also a testament to the failures of the judicial system and the media. It shows how public pressure can derail investigations, pervert justice, and send an innocent man to prison for more than a decade. But even so, one question remains. Who is the real killer, and will he ever be brought to justice? Thank you for joining us today. If you enjoyed this story and want to dive deeper into more intriguing mysteries, be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update.